Silent Night. I mean, you know the melody, you know the words. It's got to be the most famous Christmas carol in the world, right? But what if the story we all think we know, that story about its peaceful, idyllic origin, isn't the whole picture?
You know, when you hear that gentle melody, this is probably what you picture. The Silent Night Chapel in Oberndorf, Austria. It's like a perfect snow-covered postcard, the very image of peace on earth.
But was that really the world the carol was written in? Well, let's just say the reality behind Silent Night was a whole lot more complicated.
Yeah, the really surprising truth here is that this song wasn't born in a moment of peace at all. It was born in a time of profound hardship.
To really get this song, you have to understand the world it came from. And let me tell you, the early 1800s in Austria were bleak. The Napoleonic Wars had just ended, leaving total turmoil and poverty everywhere. Then, a massive volcanic eruption on the other side of the world triggered what they called a year without a summer. This led to huge crop failures, to famine. So no, this was not a time of peace. It was a time of deep, deep uncertainty.
This quote from Martina Knoll at the Silent Night Museum just nails it. She says visitors show up expecting this charming, peaceful little world, but the reality was, in her words, quite the opposite. A song of absolute peace born from a world in chaos. How does that happen?
So who were the men who could possibly create such a hopeful song in a time like that? Well, they were two guys who knew how to turn suffering into something beautiful.
The creators of Silent Night had these amazingly similar life stories. You have the poet, Joseph Mohr, and the composer, Franz Gruber, both born into serious poverty. And for both of them, their ticket out was their musical talent. Each one had a mentor who spotted their gift and helped them get an education, a door that would have been completely closed to them otherwise.
And as Martina Knoll points out, this was incredibly rare back then. Their shared background of struggle and this amazing, unlikely opportunity they both got, it gave them this unique understanding of what the people in their parish were going through.
Okay, so this all leads us to the song's very first performance, and to debunking one of the most beloved myths of Christmas. The big mystery has always been this. Why on earth was a Christmas carol in a proper Catholic church first performed on a simple guitar? Why not on the big, grand church organ?
Right, the popular legend, the one we've all heard. Hungry church mice chewed through the organ bellows right before the Christmas Eve service, and Mohr and Gruber had to scramble for a last-minute solution. It's a really charming story.
But it's almost certainly not true. Sorry, historians have looked and there are just no records of a damaged organ. What's more, a guitar was considered kind of common, a folk instrument, not something for a solemn mass. The real story was probably much simpler and honestly way more intimate. They likely performed the song right in front of the nativity scene, just as the figure of the Christ child was being placed in the crib.
So this wasn't some dramatic last-minute save. It was a simple, humble collaboration. Mohr had actually written the poem 2 years earlier. On Christmas Eve, he just walked over to Gruber, asked him for a simple melody, and that very evening, the two of them performed it for the very first time, with Mohr on guitar and Gruber singing bass.
So how did this quiet, humble little song, performed just once in a small Austrian village, become a global anthem for peace? I mean, its journey is just incredible.
It all starts right here, 1818, in Oberndorf. Just one performance for a small congregation of people who worked on the river barges and their families.
Then comes this huge leap. A family of traveling folk singers, the Rainers, they fell in love with the song and brought it with them to the United States. They performed it in New York City in 1839, and from there, its journey just took off.
And I mean, really took off. Today, Silent Night has been translated into over 300 languages. It's sung on every single continent in the world.
So what gives this one song such lasting power? It's that magic combination of a simple, gentle melody with a message that speaks to everyone, everywhere. That real hope isn't found in noise and power, but in quiet, vulnerable moments.
The current pastor in Oberndorf, Father Thomas, sums it up so beautifully. He says, "The night is real, but it does not have the last word. What changes the world begins in silence."
You see, the story of Silent Night isn't really about a cozy, perfect Christmas. It's about finding light in the dark. It was a song of hope made for people who were going through a really hard time. Which kind of leaves us with a final thought. What does this incredible story teach us about finding hope in our own silent nights?